Hi, this is Don here at Tegeler Music, and we just received a shipment of Ibanez guitars, and we've got a whole bunch of them here, and I'll take a shot and show you lined up against the wall here. We're going to unbox these things and do our initial inspection, make sure that they look good. What we're doing now, let me grab the sheet here, is we have a 50-step inspection that we do to make sure that our guitars are in great playing shape, make sure there's no issues with them, and we try to do this when we unbox any guitar. If we have backstock, then we'll go ahead and box them back up so they're ready if we need to ship them out. But I think most of the shipment is going to be for display. We're pretty low on the floor. So let's go through this just so you get an idea of what we do here. First thing we do an initial inspection and evaluation just to make sure there's no issues. So we take a good look at the guitar, and if we see any scuffs, finish damages, anything that just doesn't look right, then we'll address that, make a note of that. This one looks really good, and what we've got here, this is the AC 350 ECE Natural. This has got a solid cedar top, and this is our orchestra model. It's got the electronics built in, and this is a really nice looking guitar. I saw this one at the NAMM show and said we had to get one of these. So first thing we can check off is that's good to go. Then we go ahead and stretch the strings, because we're going to go into tuning it up and getting it to where we can look at the neck. And I've already had this one out and I've stretched it a little bit. We'll go ahead and stretch it a little bit again. Okay, strings are stretched, and that allows us to get a more stable tuning when we tune it right away. And this one's pretty close to being tuned because I had a tuner on it before. But you noticed I just played the strings open. That's our third thing on the checklist. We want to make sure that there's no buzzes just from open strings, because that would give us an indication that there's a warped neck, a low nut slot, something like that. So that's okay. We don't have any buzzes there. And we're going to take a quick look. Next thing is just take a quick look at the truss rod adjustment, make sure the neck is not really, and I'm looking for really any curves in the neck, either this way or this way. And this one looks really, really good right out of the box. I don't think we're going to have to do anything. So even though it looks good, what we've got here is it is wintertime here in Iowa, and we just brought these guitars in and we let them sit for a couple hours before I started this. And our warehouse and our receiving area, which is where we're at right now, there's our receiving computer and some shelving back here. It's a little warmer, but it's not as warm as the showroom. So we let these sit in here and kind of get a little warmed up from the winter temperature, and then we start working on these. And kind of gives us a kind of a slow warm-up process. When we're done with this, then it'll go to the showroom floor. And but first, if we find anything wrong on our checklist that needs to be adjusted in the shop, then this one will go to our shop and have the shop guys take a look at it. If that needs a truss rod adjustment, anything like that, that would go there. But this one looks good. And the next thing on our list is just double check the bridge height, make sure that it looks okay. And I've got my gauge here. And we've got some standards that we usually go by, different for acoustic and electric, to keep roughly a industry standard. This one's just a smidge high, but I'll tell you what, it's so close. I think we're going to leave it for now, just because it's going to move into that warmer weather. This neck might react a little bit to that, so then we'll take a closer look at that and we'll check that again later. Next thing we're going to check is just a quick look at the nut slot height. And what that does is that tells us our string height here, right at the first fret. And what I'm seeing here, boy, they do a great job at the factory with these. These are just about perfect. And we don't do anything to make it, to dial it right in at this point, because, we do a free adjustment for players. We have some players a little harder, a little softer players. And when you buy a guitar here in our store, we'll do a free adjustment and get it set up exactly how you like it. And that way you're not going to get something that's playing a little too high or a little too low for what your playing style is. So this one's looking really good. We can check that off. And then what we can do is we're going to throw the tuner on it. I like to use our clip-on crafter tuners. We love these things. I think everybody that works here at the store, including myself, has multiples of these, one for every one of their guitars. And these just clip onto the headstock, and they're very solid tuners. And even though this one has a tuner built in, I just like working with these better. So we're going to go ahead and give a quick tune on this thing. And I'm just watching my tuner and trying to get everything tuned up here. more time. Still a little low. Well, that sounds nice. Okay, and the next thing on the list has more to do with electrics, but we can check our intonation. We're pretty close. I mean, these guys make good guitars. There's not much we could do with the intonation anyway. It's just nice to know that they've really dialed it in anyway. And that's one of the signs of a really awesome guitar. So we can check that off. And, oops. Once again, we're playing the open strings just to make sure after I did any adjustments or tuning that it sounds fine, and that's just fine. Then what we're going to do now is we're going to play a chromatic scale across the neck and check for buzz. That was me. That's pretty good. And I usually check the treble side. And that one plays pretty good, so that looks good. And then we're going to kind of go across the strings. I usually go about halfway here. Maybe up here about the octave. Just make sure there's no. And when I looked at this one, I knew it was in good shape. So we're pretty good shape there, so I can check that out. Next thing we want to do is check some half-step bends. Because sometimes what you get is if you get a little low spot or something in a fret, you might catch some of those, especially up around the octave or where the neck hits up here. We're in pretty good shape. Extreme bends, we don't. We do that on guitar or electrics. And of course, we're going to check the electronics when we get it up front. So we're not going to check that off yet. We'll make sure the pots, the sliders, and the things are moving okay, and set them in a default center location with the volume down. And the tuner is off right now, and this tuner works pretty good on this one. It tells you what note it is, and also gives you a green light in the center on this particular one. So that's a pretty nice tuner. Okay, so that looks good. Check the tightness of the output jack. This one has, what's nice with this one, let's see if I can get this a little closer to the camera here. I don't know if it'll go out of focus or not, but it has a combination 1/4-inch jack and the XLR, so it's got the direct box built in. So if you're playing in a PA system, you can plug a mic cable right in and go for it. And also your battery compartment is right there. So we want to just make sure that everything looks good there. The battery, this one uses AA's, and those are in there, and that's nice and solid, so we're good to go there. Okay, that's an electric. And we don't have to worry about that. We checked the battery, that was on the list here. Check for smooth operation, that's an electric. And we have a shake and vibration test. So what I'm doing here is I'm trying to see if there's any loose braces or cables or wires or anything inside. So we're in pretty good shape there. These are solid guitars. That's usually more, we do that a lot for used guitars when they come in. So we got that. Hardware all looks good. Let's double check the tuners here. And I'm wiggling these side by side because sometimes if they're a little bit loose, they'll actually move, and that looks good. Now we're going to take a closer look at the finish, and we're looking at the front surface. And then next is the back surface. It looks really good. Sides. That looks good. Inside cutaways right here. That looks good along there. Nothing. Junction of the nut. And there went my phone. I got a text message. And that looks good there. Back of the heel here looks good. That's in place. Side dots. Looks good. Headstock overall Looks really good. Go ahead and pull my tuner off of there while we're looking at it. Yep, everything looks good there. Fingerboard surface. A lot of times what we'll see once in a while is, since this is an unfinished piece of wood, every once in a while we might get one that's got a little polishing compound or something that didn't clean off. But generally, with these guys, we don't have any issues. And that looks really good, a good piece of wood there. The frets, one thing I check with the frets, especially in the winter times, I run my fingers up and down the edges here and see if, with the wood expanding and contracting, if those edges are just sticking out ever so slightly. If they would be, then we'd send it to the shop. We would, you know, knock those off a little bit and smooth those up. But this one feels really good, so we're good to go there. And that, and any top dots or inlay, these are just dots. They're usually pretty good shape. Sometimes we get some fancy inlay work. We want to make sure that it's all sitting in solid and everything's good to go. And somebody just walked in behind me. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to send it to the shop. We're going to do a final polish on everything. And actually, I don't have a cloth with me, but I do it here. But at this point, we're going to send it to the shop. We've got a thumbs up for this one. And the other stuff is just accessories. We're checking for all the other 50 points. We're polishing every part of it. We're checking for the truss rod wrench, making sure that the warranty information, if there is anything with that, if it came with the cable, we'll make sure that's with it. And we just go through the rest of the checklist to make sure everything is good to go. This one gives us a thumbs up. This is going to be on the floor shortly.